Welcome to Mom Boss Central. I'm your host, Alexia Hoffman. This podcast is where entrepreneurial moms like you and me come together for real and raw conversations filled with practical tips, genuine stories, and a whole lot of girl power. But it's not just about listening, it's about building a community. If you haven't already, make sure to join at mombosscentral.com. So whether you're sipping on a cup of coffee, pouring yourself a glass of wine, or tuning in on the go, get ready to join the conversation and become part of our supportive Mom Boss Central community. Michelle, welcome to Mom Boss Central. So happy to have you on the show. I am here with Michelle Reyes. Michelle, introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hey, Alexia, so glad to be here and a big fan of the Mom Boss community. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm a culture and business coach, and I help businesses maximize their profit and reach with culturally inclusive strategies. So this includes everything from, helping folks create a magnetic brand and culture that attracts a diverse clientele, to learning how to adapt your services and your systems to authentically serve people of different backgrounds well. And as part of this, I do also help women, particularly moms, launch and scale coaching businesses via social selling and online spaces to 5K monthly revenue and beyond. Besides that, I am a professor of cultural engagement at Wheaton College and a leadership coach at the University of Texas's McCombs Business School. And I'm a homeschool mom.
Oh my
I have
gosh.
an 8-year-old, and my husband is a pastor, so I'm also a pastor's wife.
Oh my
and we live in
gosh.
Austin. That's kind of like that's me in a nutshell.
Wow, you must run out of room when you are asked for your little short bio or descriptive terms on social media. That is amazing. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I'm excited to dive into all of the things. But to get started, tell me a little bit more about how you got into starting your business and all that it includes.
Yeah. Well, I like to jokingly say that I've had a checkered professional career. I started in the academy. I started as a professor, teaching on issues of culture. But then my husband started and launched a church. Over the past 5 years, I've helped found and launched 2 different national nonprofits.
Wow.
I've written a couple of books, one of which is an award-winning book on culture. And so just in all of the different spaces I've been in, both as an academic, as a practitioner, as an author, it's always been this evolving universe of culture and business, if you will. And so as I had kids, as I, started just wanting to be more at home and giving more of my energy and time to raising my kids as a homeschool mom, I wanted to find a way in which to, create a life-giving business that fit around and aligned with my family schedule. And so that was the twofold reason of becoming a culture and business coach, is being able to do what I love and get paid well for it, right? Like that's but be able to do it on my own time, on my own schedule, in a way that fits with all the other things that we want to do as a family.
Yeah, that's amazing. So tell me a little bit more about the time frame of becoming a mom, starting your business, in addition to working at the academy, and how all of that came to be and lined up.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I started back in 2010 is when I started teaching. That's when I began my academic journey. And I thought back then I was going to be a professor for life. And it just didn't work out that way. There was I taught at a few different universities up in Chicago and then down here in Texas. And just because of where things are at right now with the humanities and budget cuts, they're just, my position, as well as, if you read the news, humanities professors in general, there's just, it's dwindling. And so I needed to make a shift, but I had my eldest while I was a professor. And so it's always been a juggling act, of like waking up super early, feeding the baby, rushing to go teach, pumping in the office, going and grading papers, like all the crazy things that moms who are teachers have to do. Pivoted from there in 2017 to doing more ministry and practical work alongside my husband
Mm.
in Austin, because we do a lot of community engagement, helping immigrants, refugees, people coming out of the prison system,
Wow.
just a lot of, real needs on the ground, and was able to take what I was teaching on in terms of culture, cultural competency, cultural intelligence, and actually apply it to our community in very practical, tangible ways.
Yeah.
Started writing on it, started teaching others, because people started asking, how can I do this? How can we do this well? How do we replicate these types of models in our churches, in our businesses, in our own consulting,
Yeah.
services and things like that? And so I've had many different hats, and like I said, started two different nonprofits. But family has always come first, and so for me, it's always been about what allows all of us to thrive as a
Mm.
family, and then making business decisions around
I
that.
love that. I think
Yeah.
that's huge. And as an entrepreneur, it's easy to lose sight of that when you get deep into business and you've been, in a growth mindset and you're setting goals. It can be easy to think about a business goal and forget the reason that you did it and set goals that prioritize your family, like you said. So I think that's amazing that you're still so in touch with that, with all of your success and all of your growth. How do you balance it all or juggle it all the different things? How, what does your schedule look like, and how do you delegate your time so that you have space to tap into all of the different categories of what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, I I feel like I probably lean very type A, so I love schedules and having everything very like highly
Yeah.
organized. The way I like to say it is that uh, we have a very scheduled day, but within our different time blocks, we like to give as much flexibility and freedom as
Yeah.
possible. And so what that means practically is that, I usually get up at 5, 5 a.m. and have a few hours to work before the kids get
Mm.
up. And then it's breakfast and homeschool. Afternoons, the kids play, clean up their room, have some quiet time while I do client calls, or strategy calls, if you will. And then afternoon activities, dinner, bedtime, and the evenings, if at all possible, I like to just be able to like relax on the couch with my husband and watch whatever TV show we're
Yeah.
watching. But sometimes I do a little more work in the evenings too. But I think the key for me is just being flexible. I know that for a lot of other women that I've talked to, there's a lot of mom guilt,
Mm.
right? Like a lot of comparison of
Yeah.
I can't get as much done as so and so, and I'm like, well, that person is 23,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, or that person doesn't have
Yeah.
kids, or that person can work 10 hours a day.
Mhm.
We don't have that. We're constantly creating these margins for our businesses and just trying to like jam pack as much as we can in those
Yeah.
spaces. But I think that's why for me, for other mompreneurs, being flexible is so important because, um, you know, as a coach, I became a coach to set my own hours, to work
Exactly.
on my own
Yeah.
time. And if I don't get something done today, then I'll just pick it back up tomorrow, and not place any guilt on myself or standards of what I should be achieving each day, because life
Yeah.
happens and I give it my all, and keep going.
Definitely. That is so huge and so important, I think, to say out loud and share, because I think it can easily look like when we see someone else like yourself who's doing so many amazing things and such important work, it's easy to start a narrative of they're doing everything right and I'm not. And I think it's, so powerful to share, okay, I'm going to give myself grace when I don't achieve everything, and that's okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And then also like where you're at in year one of your
Mm,
business versus year 10,
yes.
right? Like I've been now doing coaching and consulting for oh gosh, I mean close to 15
Yeah.
years, right? Like I can't compare myself to where I was in year one and what's possible and the knowledge and experiences I've gained. And in year one, I wasn't getting
Yeah.
referrals. I wasn't getting like
Yeah.
recommendations from people, right? So you also have to, you just just get out of the comparison game, because everyone's at a different stage, and it doesn't help. You have to be able to do what works for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. And the work that you're doing is so unique. I feel like you have really created this alignment with everything that you're doing, kind of funneling back to your mission. It sounds like, I mean, everything you shared seems very aligned and like it's cohesive. Each ties to its to another arm. How have you had the confidence to open a new chapter of that business? For example, going from coaching to writing, or going from being a professor to then coaching. And how did you have the confidence to expand that you would have the time and ability to do whatever you added in a way that was still giving you energy to do what you had previously started?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think some of it's just personality. Like I have so many different passions. Like there's so many things that gets me
Yeah.
excited and that I want to do, whether it's community engagement or writing, speaking, coaching,
Yeah.
consulting. I love all of those things. And so it's been incremental. Like in each stage of life, like when I was launching my books, I was primarily like writing and teaching and maybe doing like keynote speaking or guest lecturing at
Yeah.
places, right? And now the emphasis is more on coaching and consulting. So I think in each phase there's been a different
Mm.
emphasis, but like you said, all kind of streamlined within the world of culture, cultural competency, culture and
Yeah.
business, if you will. But I'll also say too that like I have, kind of bit the bullet and taken the jump to invest in
Yeah.
myself and invest in myself. And this is, I think, one of the best tips that I can give for other moms is that because we don't have these huge margins of time and we don't have like 8 hours a day to explore different ways of doing business and what's
Mm.
working, what's not working over time, like I have invested in coaches to have that high level personal relationship with, to be like, here's who I
Yeah.
am, here's what I do, streamline my
Yeah.
efforts so I can accelerate and make as much money as quickly as possible. And so, I've had wonderful guides along
Mm.
my way to make sure I stay focused and that all of my efforts are working into a funnel of getting more clients, making money, so I can do more of what I
Yeah, I
love.
love that. I think everything that you said is so important and so huge, especially that it does come in seasons, because it's so easy for me, an outsider who hasn't known you. I haven't known you for the duration of your career. So to me, I see all your accomplishments and I think, wow, it's she's doing so much, which not to say you're not doing so much, you definitely are, but it's easy to get in that comparison of why can't I do all of that right now? When in reality, it's like it's taken you so many years. And I think that's the same that we experience when someone says like, oh, you're so lucky, or how do you do it all? And I know people mean that in a positive connotation, but a lot of the times, like when someone says to me, how do you like, I don't know how you have time to do it all. It's like I feel like this guilt and shame around that, like I'm not doing something right, but really it's like the hours that you have put in have been for so many years that have led you to do all of those things. It wasn't just one day you woke up and you said, I'm going to tackle A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, and now look at how accomplished I am. So I think it's important for the entrepreneurs that are listening, that are maybe in the earlier stages of their business, to remember it takes time, but if you're taking steps forward and you're making progress, you will get there. You just need to prioritize and do something well so you can build.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, when I was first starting out, I did a lot of stuff for
Yeah.
free, or like for that $50 Amazon
Yeah.
card,
Yeah.
right? Like I was poor and in debt. And if we had longer, like I have so many stories of just like breaking down weeping in
Mm,
the kitchen or in the
yeah.
bathroom because something I tried just utterly
Yes, I
failed.
can
And
relate.
it was so hoping that that was going to be a cash flow for me, for our family, like because we wanted to go on that
Mm,
trip or pay for that kids sports thing or
yeah.
whatever, and it just totally
Yeah.
bombed. And feeling of helplessness of like, crap, like I've invested so much in
Yeah.
this, and what do I do now? And I think for me, just like I said, one, getting that outside coaching and help, and then just mental resilience, like just not quitting.
Mm,
Like the best thing you can do for yourself as an entrepreneur is just not
yeah.
quit and keep taking every fail, like to not ever see a failure as a
Yeah.
failure. To just keep learning, keep growing, keep adapting, changing, evolving, until you find that sweet spot where things begin to align. And that doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, and you can't
Yeah,
quit.
definitely. I think that is huge. And as you know, you've been in this space for a long time and you've kind of already overcome those ebbs and flows of business. I mean, it's so normal, right? Like I think something that I have recently shifted my perspective on is like looking at things that felt like a failure in my business and looking back and seeing they were truly growth, right? Like when I tried something new and it didn't work, it was still a season of growth. It was a learning opportunity. And it got me closer to where I ultimately wanted to be. But I had to go through that hard season and I had to lose money sometimes. I had to lose time. I had to feel like I was failing and reevaluate where I wanted to go. But ultimately, that gave me clarity that propelled me forward. So, yeah, I think that is so, so powerful for new entrepreneurs to hear and for us as other moms in business to talk about those times that we did feel like we were failing, to normalize it, because if we're not normalizing it and we're not talking to people, it can feel isolating. And that, I think, is sometimes why people end up leaving the industry or like not pursuing their passions, because they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They just see the struggle they're in. And by not sharing that, it can feel like that's the end, when really that's just part of the entrepreneurial journey that we all experience.
Man, being an entrepreneur is not for the
That's for
faint of heart.
sure. Yeah.
Like, it's so vulnerable. You're putting
Mm.
yourself out there. You struggle with that
Oh
imposter
yeah.
syndrome of like, why on earth would anyone give me
Mm-hmm.
money? And especially if you don't have like some alphabet soup behind your name in terms of titles and degrees and all
Yeah.
of this. And then you start to like when the clouds kind of part, you begin to see like no, people, if you can lead people to their desired transformations, like if you can get them to where they want to go, if you can solve their deepest problems, if you can make their life
Yeah.
easier, help them make money, or improve their health, or find that
Mm.
dream spouse or partner, like whatever it
Yeah.
is, like it does not matter if you have a doctorate or a certification or like
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So like I say that because I know that is one of the biggest things that for a lot of my clients who are moms and moms of young kids. I even have a mom who's kind of like you, Alexia. Like she just had a baby three
Yeah.
weeks ago, right? And she's like, I need financial freedom for my family now. How do I like start my own coaching business? But then that immediate like, oh my gosh, I have nothing to
Mm.
offer. And it's like, you have so much to
Yeah.
offer as a mom at that intersection of your own passion and
Mm-hmm.
expertise that you could package in so many different ways to serve other women like
Yeah.
yourself. Like if I can do it, if you can do it, anyone can
Yeah.
do it. So there's a lot of mindset work that, a lot of the obstacles are mindsets that we have to break, to believe in ourselves and the work that
Yeah,
we
I
can
think
do.
that's huge. And you hit the nail on the head with the mindset work and just like acknowledging our unique perspective and how valuable that is, because we do all have something to offer. And I think sometimes to us, because it's not new and because we've lived it and we've experienced it and we've maybe shared our story so many times, it kind of loses its glamour or its impact, because it's something that we become almost immune to. But truly, each one of our stories is so impactful. And so I mean, I know everyone that I've spoken to on the podcast, just so inspirational, truly, for women of all stages and ages in both business and being a mother, because you never know who can find inspiration in your story and what you've gone through. I mean, somebody can learn from something that you've already gone through, whether you've figured it out and you feel like you're at a spot of success, or if you're still figuring it out, you've already learned so much, you just don't realize it because you're in the thick of it and it's your norm.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's so well said. 100%
Well, thank
agree.
you. And it sounds like, with your coaching clients, you doing that mindset work is such a big piece of that. So for someone who's struggling with that imposter syndrome or really identifying their value, what advice do you have?
Yeah. Well, one, when folks work with me, we do a deep dive in month one to just really dig into what is that intersection of their
Mm-hmm.
passions and their
Yeah.
expertise. And I think for so many moms where, we're not, maybe we haven't been in like
Yeah.
corporate, or, we haven't gone so far in terms of education, like whatever that is, we have a lot
Mm.
of doubts of like who we are in comparison to, like you said, business people out in the world
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so it's so important to do that deep dive of like, well, what are you good at, to
Yeah.
name that. What do you have experience in? And sometimes it's stuff that we don't realize are actually skills, like helping, like maybe you're just a super organized mom, like you just know how to like create planners and systems and like run your
Mm.
household and like organize grocery shopping and like how to track
Yeah.
all the bills, and you know what I mean, like you don't even realize that's a skill of yours, but there's a lot of moms that don't know how to do that, and you could like package that and teach other
Yeah.
moms, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like being able to figure out what are you
Mm.
good at, naming that, and then like continuing to affirm that and figure out, okay, how do you take what you're good at and turn that into something that's profitable for you, so just kind of that awareness, opening people's eyes, being able to name what you're
Yeah.
good at, and your self-worth. I think that alone is really key. And then just reminding folks, no, there are people out there who are already making more money than you, who are less
Yes.
qualified than
Yeah.
you, right? But they're making money because they're putting themselves out
So
there.
good.
So do the same.
Yes.
Um, you know, you only fail if
I
you do
love that.
nothing.
Yeah, I think that is so huge. And like something I speak about is how, five people with the same degree can have such different lives. And I think we tie ourselves to what we think a title or a certification, whatever it may be, will do for us. But at the end of the day, like your passion is what sets you apart and what propels you forward on a path that's impactful. Because five people with the same degree
Yeah.
could, even in the same career, the same exact job title, are going to live out their life and do their work so differently based on their unique experiences and based on their passions. So for us, we need to validate our experiences and tap into that, because that is what is truly unique. That's what's special. Nobody else can recreate your experiences. And like you said, someone else is less qualified. So why not share what you have to offer so that someone can take advantage of your experiences and learn from your mistakes instead of going to someone less qualified who's not as relatable because they try to do everything right and aren't sharing as vulnerably. Maybe that's the person you're up against. Who knows?
Yes. Yes. 100%. And I think to that point, it's just, needing to get out of
Mm.
your own head. I think any sort of desire for perfection just has to go
Yeah.
out the window, whether that's having a really amazing looking website or like these perfect social
Mm.
media posts. Like for me, I feel like done is better than
Yes,
perfect,
always.
if you will. And that's something else too, where I talk with moms and they're like, "Man, I launched this thing, I'm not getting any clients," and then I go to their Facebook page or Instagram, and I'm like, "This is all just pictures of your kids and funny memes." Like how do you even know that you have
Yeah,
a
yeah,
business? You know what I mean? And so I think it's just figuring out how are you actually putting that business hat on, of like you talk about yourself as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a coach, or like whatever it is that you're doing. Like you have to have that mindset in person, but then also
yeah.
online. Like you have to treat your social media as business
Yes.
pages. Like you have to be posting about awareness and talking about your ideal
Mm.
clients' pain points and desired transformations and how you're helping people. If you only use social media to post about your kids or your dog or funny memes, like, of course, it's going to create this self fulfilling cycle of like, I don't think anyone wants to work with me. No one's reaching out. Like, you have to change the system. You have to
Yeah.
change the game and just
Yeah,
put
I
yourself out
think
there.
that is so true. And I think that's like can be the scariest part is to declare it to the world. Because I think sometimes we have a passion and
Yeah.
it's hard to know what to do first. Like where do I get started? Like that imposter syndrome comes in of, oh, I can't say I'm a author, right? Because I don't have a published book. Or I can't say I'm a speaker because I haven't spoken yet. It's like no, you need to go and you need to declare it and you need to start telling people that that's who you are. I mean, I know like changing your Instagram bio can feel
Yeah.
so scary or your LinkedIn bio, whatever it is, whatever platform, but that truly is the ultimate, in my opinion, the ultimate hold of accountability because truly once you put it out there, then people are going to ask you about it and that's what you want. That's how you start. But it's also the flip side, you're putting it out there, so you're going to have to follow through with acting on it. So I think that is, why it's scary
Yeah.
because now you're sharing your dreams with the world, but that also will help you stay accountable so that you can get closer to achieving it. And it's okay if it's not perfect, but like going out there and declaring it, that
Yeah.
really does need to be the first step. And I think sometimes people get caught up of like, should I wait until I've done X, Y, and Z before I identify as that? Like, no, make it part of your identity now, and it'll be so much easier to get there than to wait.
Yes. 100%. The only thing that I recommend doing before, really like publicizing is just being able to
Yeah,
do some market research, like
have a
actually
business plan.
talking to people, figuring out,
Yeah,
yes, have a
don't
business
just
plan.
launch. Yeah, I guess I
Exactly.
should have a
Exactly.
disclaimer.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, right. Like know what your niche is, know
ideal
what your like
client.
your
Yeah.
ideal client, your unique message, your unique kind of thing. And like once you have at least a first draft of that,
Mm-hmm.
because it will change. And I'll say even for myself, over the past 5 years, um, how I serve people has generally stayed the same, but like my messaging around it
Yeah.
has like if you looked at me 5 years ago, it was totally different. So like just know what you say is going to go through drafts
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to change. But like once you have your first
Yeah.
draft of like, here's my profitable niche, this is what I do, here's how I help people, here's how I make their lives
Yeah.
better. Yes, name it and claim it, put it out there, let the world know. It's going to, that alone is going to start drawing people, like you said, to ask questions. And then it's also your own accountability system of like, oh, well,
Yeah.
I've publicized
I
this, so
better
I
start
better
doing it.
start
Yeah.
talking about this.
Yeah, I think that's
Exactly.
huge too about identifying your ideal client. I think that's something that it does change and that's normal, but we need to know who we're speaking to and know who we want to serve. And I think, especially new business owners, sometimes I think get scared that they're going to exclude too many people, so they're not specific enough. And that was something I know that in real estate, when with my team, I always had to tell people like, get more specific. Okay, who do you want to help? Now tell me more. Get more specific. And truly, I think what I've learned in the real estate space and now the Mom Boss Central coaching speaking space, it's like I would rather be too specific, quote unquote, and have someone say, "Hey, but will you also help me serve me?" Even though they don't fit into that line that I created. I think that is a better problem to have is someone asking, "Hey, will you kind of open up or go outside the range?" than to not be specific enough. And I think that's where entrepreneurs go wrong is they try to cast too wide a net, and you end up not being clear enough or really going after, being confident in your mission because you're trying to be almost too inclusive of too many people.
Yes, absolutely. And it works against you because then people read your stuff and they don't see
Yes.
themselves in it. And so then they just swiping or whatever the action is. Yeah, you have to be super niche, right? And so that when you use the language of your ideal client, they're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's me. I was just talking about that with my
Yes.
husband today, or I was just venting about
Yeah.
that last night, right? And then they start to say, oh, okay, when I need help with this, I'm going to contact this person. So yeah, niching down, can feel so scary because you're like, am I losing money because I'm getting too narrow? But it's actually the opposite. You actually are able to call in your ideal
Yeah.
client faster and then gain more
Yeah,
clients as a result.
definitely. How have you been able to continue to scale your business since you said you've been, coaching for close to 15 years? How have you continued to scale but also stay passionate about what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, one thing is that the work that I do in one-on-one coaching is highly customizable. It's highly personalized. So I'm going in either with one-on-one clients or with organizations, and like getting really clear on what their specific issues are and giving them customized development plans, if you will. So I think just
Hmm.
that alone, there's always this creative ideation, and I love that, being able to like give different solutions
Yeah.
for different people. So I think that always keeps things fresh and interesting. But yeah, some people talk about like the
Mm.
six-figure offer suite, right? And I'm always thinking about like, what is that for me? Now, granted, the one caveat is that my goal, the way I was coached, what my plan has always been was to win at one-on-one coaching, to do that so well, to scale to 10K months and beyond. And like, once I get there, then to be able to expand my services. And so I'm at that point. Like, I am consecutively hitting 10K monthly
Yeah.
revenue and beyond. And so it's like, okay, what's my what's my offer suite? And I wouldn't recommend folks diversifying and having multiple
Mm.
offers at the
Yeah.
beginning. Start with one, make it a high ticket offer, sell that well, win at it,
Mm.
and then
Good
diversify.
advice.
But in terms of, yeah, so from there, one-on-one coaching, scaling to then these sort of group consulting. I have some clients that, like, they're all over the map, but they in all different ways need to learn how to leverage cultural and competency for their business's success. So I'm working with a
Mm.
cybersecurity organization that has like US Homeland
Wow.
Defense customers, and they're like, we have engineers of all different cultures, and we need to be able to work better together for our own productivity and output. And so all sorts of different clients, but scaling from one-on-one to these types of group
Mm.
coaching, group consulting, to then having a suite of different online courses that I can
Yeah.
sell while I
Yeah.
sleep, so to speak, systems and funnels behind that. But again, I wasn't having any of these conversations with
Yeah.
myself 10 years ago, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's building blocks. Then you think about, what do I need to win at first? Once I win at that, what's step two, what's step three, and not biting off more than you
Mm.
can chew too early, so that you just have these capacity leaks all over the
Yeah.
place
Yeah,
and you
I
burn
think
out.
that is such a huge thing as is the burnout piece because it's, you can scale. A lot of people will scale, but then they hit the point of burnout. And that's like defeating the whole purpose, right, of scaling. Because that's why we get into this entrepreneurial space is to feel fulfilled in what we're doing and to have the freedom to not hit that point. But then I think we hold ourselves to a higher standard than someone else will. And because of that, there's less regulation and just less grace overall than we would get from an exterior boss, if you will, or someone besides ourselves that's talking to us about all the good work we're doing. Because sometimes we get stuck in our own head. We know what we wanted to do. We can see the end goal, the big picture. But on the outside, nobody else, I mean, unless you're talking about it, of course, which is important, but a majority of people aren't going to be saying you didn't hit X, Y, and Z. They're going to say, look at all you accomplished. But for us, we don't do that because as entrepreneurs, a lot of us are working towards the next big thing. So I think that's so important of what you said is to focus on those building blocks and the milestones along the way that are laying the foundation. And even if it doesn't happen right now, that it can happen and it will happen. And it's more sustainable to really focus in on the thing that you're doing on a smaller scale in this season and later to try to grow and scale instead of doing it all at once.
Yes, 100%. Do one thing really well, win at it, and then
Yeah.
build from
Yeah,
there.
definitely. Well, this has been so amazing, Michelle. Thank you for all of your insight. Your resume is amazing. Your perspective is amazing. The work you're doing is so great. And yeah, we're just so lucky to have you as part of the Mom Boss Central community. I Think you're so inspiring, and I am grateful for your time. For those who want to connect with you, where can they find you and what do you offer?
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks for having me. This was got me all energized
Yay.
too, this conversation. Yeah, you can find me online. My website is my full name, michelleamireyes.com. I'm on all the platforms. On Instagram, my handle is Michelle Ami Reyes, and Michelle Ami Reyes on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. If you want, shoot me a DM on Instagram. One of the things that I offer is a free 45-minute strategy call. So if you're at a place as a mompreneur that you are like, I don't know
Mm.
either where to start, or I don't know how to take whatever I'm doing right now is not working, and I need to be able to streamline this better, align it,
Yeah.
make more money. What I offer on these free strategy calls is like just a deep dive into, okay, what are you
Mm.
doing right now? What are your goals? What's the struggle? And then I offer 3 strategies for how to fix those leaks, become more streamlined,
Yeah.
start making more money faster. So if you are interested in that, you can go on my website or on any of the links in my social media handles to book a free call. And I offer both one-on-one and group coaching services. So I'm so passionate about helping moms be able to create their dream, coaching or consulting jobs so they
Mm.
can double or triple their income, work from home, work less, and actually spend more time doing what they love because they have the financial freedom. So if that's where you're
Yeah.
at, let's talk. Um,
So
I would
great.
love to
Well,
be able to
thank
chat
you,
more.
Michelle. Again, so happy to have you as part of the community. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Mom Boss Central. I hope you found inspiration, encouragement, and maybe even a few new strategies to rock your mom boss journey. Remember, you're not alone. We're all in this together. And don't forget to share the love with your fellow mom bosses. Make sure to join the community at mombosscentral.com. It's completely free and a space to connect with like-minded women. All you have to do is sign up and start connecting. Until next time, keep pursuing your passions and living authentically. We're so happy to have you as part of the Mom Boss Central community.